Suddenly they were teleported to another dimension, and they were separated from Epsilon and the other members. Meanwhile, Jack was confident that he will win, and he created clones of himself, which made Delta angry. So she attacked all the clones of Jack, but more and more clones appeared and tried to murder her. However, Jack explained that the room was absorbing their magic power, and Delta planned to kill all newly created clones. Then we see Aurora, and she was wondering why Sheed was doing nonsense in the dark room. Suddenly they were teleported to a battlefield, and he said that she was heavy. Aurora helped him to get up, and they continued trying to find a way out of the sanctuary. Afterwards, Sheed wondered why she was seen as a crying child again. Aurora took a sword in her hand, and she intended to kill her past self. Suddenly she was attacked by zombies, and Sheed saved her from the monsters. They noticed that more and more zombies were appearing, and they were considered a virus in the system. Following this, we see Epsilon, and she looked at the surroundings with her team. She spotted a monster, and her commanders were ready for battle. Epsilon stopped their members and told them not to worry. As a result, the monster turned into a girl, and she explained to her members that they are just memories. She understood that the sanctuary responded to the members of Shadow Garden, and she would have lived that life too if Shadow hadn't saved them. Then Epsilon's team planned to take the information about the victims of the experiments, and they used a Canon camera to take pictures. Suddenly they could no longer control their magic power, and Epsilon forced her members to keep the secret that her breasts were fake. Later, Sheed fought the zombies with Aurora, and she was surprised that he could easily defeat the zombies without magic. He replied that he did bodybuilding in his free time and learned a lot of martial arts. Then Sheed decided to go to the next room, and he felt sorry that he had to kill Aurora's past self. When they arrived at the center of the sanctuary, the two discovered a magical sword that was sealed. Meanwhile, Delta was still fighting Jack, and he couldn't believe that her magic wasn't completely absorbed. She defeated all of Jack's clones, and he was shocked because he realized that she could control their mana with a special technique. Jack thought he just had to create more clones to win, but Delta was the reincarnation of Vegeta from Dragon Ball Super. After this, we see Sheed, and it was explained to him that the sealed door must be destroyed in order to get to the magic core behind it. He knew immediately that his sword was not suitable to destroy the chains. Aurora replied that they can destroy the chains with the sword stuck on the ground. Unfortunately, Sheed knew that he was not authorized to pull out the sword. Following this, Alexia doubted that Delta belongs to Shadow Garden because her fighting style is not at all similar to Shadow. She said that she is strong but fights like a wild animal. Suddenly they were teleported back to another room, and Jack was shocked because Delta had defeated over hundreds of clones of him. Suddenly Jack became desperate, and he knew he had to play his last trump card. He activated a magic circle, and the legendary heroine Olivier appeared in the room. She looked like Alpha, and Jack was sure that with the help of Olivier, he will win. Meanwhile, Epsilon showed up with her team, and she said that they had finished the investigation. Alpha was pleased to hear her words, and she planned to retreat with her team. Before she left, she told Jack that her goal was to cut off the source of power. So Shadow Garden opened a portal, and the girls all left the sanctuary. Then he was alarmed about intruders, and he was afraid of encountering a monster like Delta again. For this reason, he ordered Olivier to accompany him. Meanwhile, Sheed learned that Aurora will disappear after the core is destroyed. Suddenly a portal opened, and Jack appeared. Sheed remembered seeing the bald man somewhere, and he was surprised that Olivier looked like Alpha. Meanwhile, Jack looked down on the two and said that they will never be able to destroy the sealed door. He said they were going to die, and heroine Olivier ran towards them. But Sheed wasn't afraid, and he planned to fight them. Aurora thought Sheed would lose, but he planned to play with her. So he let himself be hit on purpose to test her strength. Jack wondered why he was smiling, and he knew he had found a strong opponent. Olivier began attacking Sheed again, and she managed to inflict a fatal injury on him. Suddenly, Sheed said that the girl in front of him has no heart because she doesn't respond to his requests. Aurora wanted to stop the fight, and she explained to him that he cannot defeat the heroine Olivier. She thought that Sheed was trying to destroy the core out of love for her, and he was confused. Following this, Aurora tried to convince Jack to spare Sheed's life, but he said that he will easily win the fight. Jack became angry and ordered Olivier to kill him. Sheed began to smile because he had lured Olivier into his trap. The reason for this was that he planned to do a move like Mike Tyson, and he bit off a piece of heroine Olivier's neck. Aurora was shocked that Sheed managed to defeat the strongest heroine in history. Olivier's body disappeared, and Sheed began to smile. Jack then asked why he was still alive, and he explained that he could move his organs around his body to prevent fatal attacks. He also explained to Jack that there is a point on humans' necks to kill any person instantly. Jack made fun of him and told him that Heroine Olivier is just one copy of many. So he activated a spell, and he ordered an entire army made up of copies of Heroine Olivier to attack. Unfortunately, Sheed was not impressed, and he began to unleash his magic. Jack was shocked because Sheed wasn't supposed to be able to control his magic, but he used magic to create a sword. However, he replied that he could use his magic all the time and was just playing with Jack. Afterwards, Sheed began fighting the other Oliviers, and Jack thought he could win. Sheed ignored him, and Aurora realized that he planned to wipe out the entire sanctuary to destroy the core. Following this, he prepared his spell, and Aurora couldn't believe that any person could possess infinite magical energy. Sheed activated his spell, and it caused an explosion more powerful than a nuclear bomb. As a result, the sanctuary exploded, and Shadow Garden knew that Shadow caused it. Alexia and Rose were shocked too, and they couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. Meanwhile, the arm of Diablos was freed, and Sheed prepared to destroy it. A short time later, he was back in the real world, and Aurora noticed that she was disappearing. Aurora told him that she was calling him, and she apologized for lying to him. He wasn't angry, and Aurora thanked him for saving her. Before she completely disappeared, she whispered a message in his ear. Then we see Alexia, and she asked Rose if she wasn't frustrated. She said that they couldn't do anything except watch the fight as background characters. Suddenly, Beta asked what Alexia was planning to do, and she replied that the three of them should work together to gather information. She wanted to use the information to build an organization strong enough to learn the truth about the world. Beta and Rose joined her team, and they planned to work together. In the following morning, Alpha was informed that the magical sword and the core had been vaporized. It was also reported to her that Beta is guiding the princess to infiltrate the Crimson's Order's inner circle. Additionally, Alpha learned that the witch Aurora was also known as the demon Diablos. Later we see Gamma, who was planning to buy a property in the Bagalta Empire. The real estate agent tried to convince her to buy the property, and she used her business skills to get the property for a cheap price. Then Nu showed up and told her that they had finished all the preparations, and Gamma agreed to buy the property. Additionally, she said that she will buy every property on this street, and the real estate agent was surprised. A few days later, the other core members of Shadow Garden were all waiting for Alpha's return to the base. Shortly after, Alpha returned to the base, and she remembered the day she showed Sheed their base. He liked the family atmosphere, and Alpha talked about her plan to destroy the cult of Diablos. That day, Sheed said he will help them with her plan, and he will teach the girls fighting techniques so they can defend themselves. Then we see Alexia, who was at a spa with her big sister. She reported to Iris about the events in the sacred land. Following this, Alexia suggests that they needs to investigate the divine teachings. Suddenly, Iris mentioned that this year's Bushin Festival will be an important role, because winning will give them more backing from the Night Order. Alexia understood her plan, but she feared that Shadow Garden might get in their way. Iris told her little sister that she planned to win the Bushin Festival at all costs. After this, Alexia was asked why she followed Shadow Garden, and she avoided talking about the topic. Following this, Iris was ashamed because the Night Order no longer trusted her, and countless talented knights died under her leadership. Meanwhile, Rose was training her swordsmanship, and she was not satisfied because she couldn't imitate Shadow's attack back then. Suddenly she felt a pain in her chest, and she realized that something was wrong with her body.